Welcome, my friends, to the YouTube version of the BJJ Break podcast. I hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get to the show.
Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 147 of the BJJ Brick podcast. I'm Gary, and I'm here with Byron. How are you doing today, Byron?
Gary, I'm doing great. Happy to be recording an episode with you today. Really excited about this interview we have, and basically the whole show. You know, we've got Tom DeBlass on the show, Gary.
Tom DeBlass, I tell you, we've been wanting to get him for a long time. His name's out there all the time. He's just an incredible competitor, UFC fighter. Just wins. Seems like every match out there. And he's just a fun guy to watch. And if you ever check him out on Facebook and just read his post, you can just tell he's an average guy. He's just a normal guy who's just incredible at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, he's like the champion of the normal guy. He understands that we're not all UFC high level grapplers.
We want to be, but
yeah, that the desire's there. But he's really helping everybody get better at jiu-jitsu. And Gary mentioned his Facebook thing, his Facebook page. If you're not at friends or you don't like his page, go do that now. It's he posts motivational stuff every day, and it's just really great to see. I really enjoy seeing that online, and of course there'll be links to that in the show notes, Gary.
Yep, definitely. So if you miss our interview section of the show, you're in big trouble. We're going to put you in timeout if you miss it, so do not miss it.
We'll put you in a Tom DeBlass heel hook.
Oh, yeah. So you definitely don't want that. Yep. Hey, definitely make sure you check out our link on the show notes to our email list. Put your email in there, and we will send you the link each and every week. That way you'll never miss a show, and you won't have to be sad when you do miss a show. So definitely get on our email list.
Absolutely. Gary, we don't want you to be sad if you miss a show. That's what the email's for. We also don't want you to struggle through your first year of grappling any more than you have to. You know, it is a rough sport. It is a rough martial art. There's a lot of bumps and dips in the road and hurdles to get over. But I've made an audiobook called Your First Year of BJJ. It's about 2.5 hours long of me talking to you, and it just kind of running you through what's going to happen and what to expect, and how to kind of the unwritten rules you might not know you're breaking. And I want to make things as easy as possible for this first year. I really think if you can get past that first couple months and have fun with it, learn that it's not life and death, get past that first year and really incorporate it into your lifestyle, and really make it something that you do, you'll have a fitness activity that is going to keep you in shape for the rest of your life. It's going to give you a great self-defense aspect of things, and you'll be able to protect yourself and the people that you care about. You'll be able to take care of your body long-term. It's so great we have an activity that keeps us in shape and is fun. So there's so many great benefits. We can go on about weight loss and tons of stuff. But really, do just for a year, you'll love it.
Like Byron said, we can go into all the benefits about weight loss, keeps us in shape. But you know what's really cool? It's fun. It's fun to choke your friends. There's nothing better than choking your friends unconscious. So that's what's really cool about it.
And that's what Gary does to me. So to really help you through that first year, we've got the audiobook. It's, like I said, 2.5 hours long, $11.99. That money goes to support the show and help keep us on the air.
Did you say only $11.99?
I did.
Are you out of your mind?
I am a little bit out of my mind.
What a deal!
What a deal! You can't beat it with the chance of this, of really trying to incorporate it into your life over this first year, lifelong fitness and activity like this. It's as good of a deal as jiu-jitsu is sometimes. Like I can't believe how great this activity we've found. And if you want to call it a sport, if you want to call it martial art, or just hanging out with your friends and choking them as well, whatever you want to call it, we're so lucky we found it, and trying to share with everybody we can.
That is so true.
Speaking of our friends, we had a friend, Mike Canfield, sent us a quote of the week, Gary.
And the cool thing about this quote, is it kind of goes with the name of our podcast, BJJ Brick. We talk about having the brick in jiu-jitsu.
It kind of also goes with the logo of our podcast, which is
so
a little bit violent at times.
Yeah, when Mike sent us this, we figured it's got to go on the show.
Yeah, before I read it, if you want to send us a quote, send it to bjjbrick@gmail.com or send it to us on our Facebook page. We'll be happy to talk about it on the air in one of our future episodes. The quote here is from Steve Jobs. And he said, "Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith." Wow, that sounds miserable, Gary. What could you tell us about getting hit in the head with a brick?
Well, if you look at our logo, you see I'm about to get a brick bounced off my head. So it's happened to me. And you know what I always say, Byron? Don't lose faith. Don't lose faith.
Well, there we go. That's what Steve Jobs says. I mean, everybody has hurdles, rough times in their life. That's what happens. It's not. It would be nice to have a smoother life, but there's going to be those bricks that hit you, metaphorically or cartoonily, however you get them, Gary. Don't lose faith. Keep faith in yourself. If you're having trouble with jiu-jitsu, keep faith in your jiu-jitsu. If you're religious, keep faith in God. Keep faith. Keep going. The struggle is really part of life that you'll look back on and hopefully be able to view with a little more positive spin on than when you actually had the struggle going. But life hits you sometimes.
Yeah,
get back up.
Definitely. Yeah, life hits you. Keep going. We're gonna, as Byron said, have struggles. But the cool part is, it just makes you stronger to get through those struggles. And then it's so cool to look back on them and just say, man, I overcame this. That's cool. Pat yourself on the back and have a Diet Pepsi and celebrate.
Oh, the old Diet Pepsi.
This segment has been brought to you by Diet Pepsi.
This is the podcast that's not brought to you by any Jiu-Jitsu style endorsements. This is brought to you by name brand Colas.
But, hey, we have talked about the brick, getting hit with a brick, but, you need to get back up. Don't lose faith. We have a great article that kind of goes by, getting hit by the brick. It's at Inverted Gear. We will put a link to it on our show notes. And, hey, the cool thing about this article, it's by Marshall Carper. We've actually had Marshall on the show, episode 130. So definitely, if you haven't checked out 130, go back and check it out, especially if you like this article. But this article, and it's not a song title. The article title is Baby Don't Hurt Me. Kind of sounds like a song title. But Marshall's talking about jiu-jitsu, and it's kind of a joke. He says, how they call jiu-jitsu the gentle art? Well, it's only the gentle art for the person that's winning. And, that is true. You think about how many times you've been on the bottom, you're just getting smashed and, you're getting pushed and tweaked and turned and yanked every which way. And you're like, boy, I signed up for this. But so, I mean, it's a very, very tough sport. He talks about he hasn't met a black belt that doesn't have a laundry list of injuries. Grapplers are broken people. And, he said he's been 10 years in the sport, and, he's had, he talks about herniated disc, bad shoulders, torn up knees, mangled digits that barely resemble fingers. I mean, I think we've all seen that. And he talks about it seems as though earning a black belt has some prerequisite of self-destruction. And I love the part he talks about. And white and blue belts have the nerve to complain about their instructors not rolling enough after they taken many years of beatings. But he says that's not the point he's really trying to make about the injuries. But he's saying, we've talked, this episode and last episode too, about longevity, being able to grapple for a long time. And are we ignoring the conversation about longevity? Grappling's, they call it jiu-jitsu the gentle art, and is all this stuff worth it? All this beating that we take, is it really worth it? I mean, are we going to be 70 years old and be in wheelchairs? And, and he's got a couple topics here in the middle of the article that he talks about worth considering, and we'll talk about those. But, the first one he talks about techniques that rely on inversion. And that's becoming bigger and bigger here. People inverting, but building your game around inverted techniques means you'll spend a lot of time on your shoulders with the potential for downward pressure that strains your neck and lower back. Sure, you're going to win some matches this way, but he says it's the wear and tear worth it. Especially younger and younger competitors are adopting these strategies. You watch a baseball game and it seems like every great pitcher has went through at least once Tommy John surgery. And, then he poses the question, could neck injuries be the jiu-jitsu version of Tommy John injuries?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff is going on here, Gary. If you're new, try not to wreck your body doing this. That's a big deal that people, I'm sore today, I'll heal up next week. But these do compound over time. If you're already a little beat up, acknowledge that and try to do what Gary and I do, adapt parts of your game to where you're not getting beat up just by the positions you're in. Gary plays a certain style of game where he's constantly keeping himself safe.
I call it the old man jiu-jitsu.
He's got a great game. It beats me up with it all the time. But there are things he does because he can't do other things that he used to like to do. And so he's changing his game. And he mentions the mangled fingers. That specifically, okay, your finger's going to get stepped on, people are going to fall on them, whatever, that's going to happen. But that's really not the cause of these mangled fingers. It's the gi fighting, the grip fighting. It's you grab my pant leg, I grab the back of your wrist and kick my leg as hard as I can, and I snap your grip. Okay, here's what you do. You let go before it snaps. That's easy. I train with people that do this all the time. They tape their fingers up like crazy. Just let go of your grip. You're trading. What's the big freaking deal, Gary?
Does that go back to what we were talking about last week, ego, and the Bernardo Faria article? He kept saying that ego is a big, you're trying to win. Your ego's there.
You're going to have these same hands, these same two hands, if you're lucky, the rest of your life. Treat them like that.
Yeah, like you're saying, some days you just got to either change your game to protect an area that's injured, take a day off. And Byron emailed me here this afternoon. He's like, hey, you coming to train tonight? And, I told Byron I've been kind of, nagging injuries I've rolled 4 days straight. And that's a lot for me. I never roll that many days straight. And I told Byron I can't make it tonight. I need to do some active rest. I still was active, but I really just needed to take a day off.
Yeah.
So like Byron said, be smart. Number 2 here, he's got techniques that put significant repetitious strain on major joints. And, he was talking to a high-level competitor known for his triangle game, and that person mentioned to Marshall how it had wrecked his knees. So like Byron said, if you might want to change your game if you're into that position. But, leg locks, he talks about leg locks are really getting popular today. Are we going to see, more leg injuries, more injuries to the knee?
Yeah, I don't know. It really, on that one, it probably depends more on the willingness to tap in time to have quality training partners. But it's the opposite with the triangle choke, because what you're doing is putting your own knees in that spot. And whether your knees are fine with it or not, you need to realize that and adjust your game accordingly, because it's you are on offense and it hurts your own knees. Oh, maybe you should not do that. If somebody's going back for your foot and you're on defense, well, know when to tap and know when to fight. That's really up to you on that one as far as that. But nobody puts themselves in your triangle, really. So if your knees are bad...
I've seen... And I was going to say, I've probably paid a couple people to do it. So, and the point number 3 makes is the training today, the competition training intensity. And, he's talking about the people today probably train, with more frequency and more intensity than they did back in the day. The bar is raised, and is this going to increase the amount of injuries? So, I mean, if you're training that way, if you're just training balls to the wall all the time with no rest, you probably will see more injuries.
And that's part of that wanting to compete lifestyle that you're deciding to make. And listen to the interview today. High-level competitor, training a lot. Of course, he's going to be more likely to get more bumps, bruises, and even injuries. Training, 5 hours versus 1 hour, per day. It's just mathematically likely. And of course, the competitors are training harder. No, they're not just training more. They're really going at it. So if you're considering competing, consider what level you're competing at. There's different levels of competition, obviously. A lot of times you're just competing against somebody like yourself who's got a job, got a family. You're going to go out there and do your best, and they're probably going to train about as hard as you can. So it's a fairly even thing. If you're going to try to step up to that big stage, realize the sacrifices you're going to have to make in order to make that happen and to do well there. But a little bit of a risk in that type of a training, more so than in more of a laid back training. But no pain, no gain, I guess, Gary. We could say that quote right there.
But we need to train smarter. A lot of times, and abandon that ego. And like Marshall says, his intent is not to suggest that jiu-jitsu is broken or we should abandon innovation. He's just saying, hey, let's take a step back and let's think about, we want to be longevity. We want to be doing this for a long time, and what do we really mean by the jiu-jitsu lifestyle? And most of us, I think, want this sport something that we can enjoy for the rest of our lives. Like, I don't want to just say, hey, I'm turning 50, I'm going to stop. I don't think I want to keep going, as long as I'm alive. I hope to be training jiu-jitsu in my 80s. So it's something that I want to keep doing. I love this sport so much, and I want to make it, I don't want to sacrifice short term I'd rather just keep training as long as possible and always have fun and smiling when I'm training.
There you go. And that didn't happen on accident. That really happens with making adjustments in your game. And I'm reminded of John Will when we had him on the show. And it also requires a change in your mindset and a change in thinking about who you are as a person and a grappler. You're not going to be able to do the same things you used to be able to do. If sometimes that hits you so hard that it takes you out of the game. Like, well, I can't do that anymore. My favorite move or my game is really not as strong as it once was. If that takes you out of the game, it's really you've failed to adapt to the new person you've become, the older person, ultimately, the wounded person. But make that adaptation. Realize that it's okay that you're not the same person you were 5-10 years ago. You're still going to have a great time on the mat. You're still going to get there with all your buddies and train and have a good time. You can still learn new jiu-jitsu. You can still update your game, and there's a lot more to go. So I think that mental hurdle is oftentimes just as big as the physical beat-up hurdle.
I agree with that. Mental hurdle is tough, and I think that mental hurdle is what leads to the beat-up hurdle. It's so you got to get your head right.
Yeah, and someone's going to help us get our heads right today. It is going to be Tom DeBlass with our interview. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
When he gets someone in a calf slicer, all baby cows scream in pain or walk with a limp. He created the Great Lakes with a heavy side mount. He could jump into a muddy pond and catch Turtle Man without getting bit.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Tom DeBlass to the BJJ Brick podcast. Tom, welcome to the show.
How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm happy to have you on. If anybody is listening and they don't follow you on Facebook, I got to say right away, go find him on Facebook. I'll put a link in the show notes. And you're typing up things that are great to read every day about jiu-jitsu and life and just really great things. And I really appreciate reading those several times a week. So, but that's not really just who you are. Can you tell us like a little bit about yourself and what you're up to?
Yeah, I've owned my school now for 10 years. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt for going to be 9 years. I'll be up for my 3rd degree this year. I've competed all over the world. I run a successful academy, and I'm a father of 2. And basically, that's it. I like to compete a lot, and I'm giving a ton of seminars now. And pretty easy to find out about me. Check me out on Facebook. I post a lot of stuff.
Yep. You now compete a lot in gi, no gi. You've done very well at MMA. What's really the future looking for you at for competition wise?
All no gi. I'm more of a no gi competitor now. 2007 or 2008 was actually the last time I competed in the gis when I won the brown belt Pan Ams. And after I won the Pan Ams at brown belt, I basically just went all no gi. And I won the black belt Pan Ams at no gi, ADCC trials 2 times, ADCC national absolute division, ton of super fights. I've done pretty good. Won the Masters 1 absolute black belt division, the no gi worlds last year. So no more MMA, just no gi. And I'd be surprised if I competed in the gi again.
What is it about the gi that you shy away from or dislike, or what is it about the no-gi aspect of things that draws you to that side?
I like the gi. I just got so far removed when I started training for MMA. It was just, I really, the one thing actually I'd probably say that turns me away from competing in the gi is, I like to reap, I like leg locks, I like all that stuff. And with the gi, you're not allowed to do that, But I think the gi is crucial. I think it's essential. I really, really enjoy it. And it's just something that, I don't like to compete in anymore.
Yeah. I'd like to just ask you a little bit more about the reaping of the knee. Why do you think that people aren't allowed to reap the knee while they're wearing the gi?
I think with the gi is just, you can't roll out, it's very dangerous. There's no rolling out. It's actually harder to secure a heel hook with the gi because of the grips, but at the same time, once it's secured, it's nearly impossible to escape because there's no rolling out whatsoever. So the risk for potential injury is much higher.
I see. And of course, with the reaping the knee, you're the leg lock guy. Is most, if not all or so, of the really good leg locks, does that include reaping of the knee?
Most of them, no, actually, no, not all, because outside astrogram, you're actually coming to the opposite side.
Yeah.
And that is a heel hook though, and you're not allowed to do heel hooks with the gi, So it's most things are illegal to do. Most leg locks are illegal to do with the gi. As far as no heel hooks are allowed, no reaping leg locks. You could toe hold and stuff, but you just can't make sure you're reaping.
Now, being such a big competitor, how important is it that you have your students compete?
It's not important at all. It's really their prerogative, And if they want to compete, I support it. If they don't, I support that as well. People train jiu-jitsu to be happy. People train jiu-jitsu to better themselves. I'm not going to force competition upon them. It's a personal choice that they would have to make. And, being promoted under me has nothing to do with competition.
What percent of your students do you think compete?
10%, if that, the ones that do are very successful. They do very, very well. But I'd say most, not I'd say, I know for a fact, most don't compete and most have no interest in ever competing.
Are the people that are not, obviously if you're not competing, some people train really hard and don't compete, but there's that added motivation, the added factor of getting in, really good shape and all these things that maybe that didn't really attract us to the mats or off the mats, all that training without the drive of competing coming up. But compared to like on the mat, the people who don't compete, is there a big difference with somebody who's been going for 8 years without competing or versus with competing?
No, some of the guys that don't compete, they'll still kick your butt. Jiu-jitsu technique is jiu-jitsu technique, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be a competitor. Not always the best guy wins the competition. The person who knows how to play the rules the best is the one who wins the competition, you know? So, I don't think so much. I mean, yeah, they'll stay in a little better shape. They have to train harder for sure, you know, but as far as technical level, I wouldn't say it's a much different, technical level from people who compete and people who don't compete.
Could you describe, we talked a little bit about leg locks, could you describe your style of game that you like to play?
My style of leg locks?
Just your style of grappling. What type of a game do you like to play?
I play the half guard always from the top. I put people to the half guard from the bottom. I play the half guard, and I use that to pass, and I use that to sweep. I use the half guard to set up Kimuras, leg locks, reversals. I work the butterfly hook in there, but I'm a very, very half guard orientated player.
So, did I catch you right? You play the half guard from bottom, and then like to get top from there and pass the half guard. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. It sounds very like a interesting system you have. It's a little harder if you just want to be on the top in half guard, because not everybody plays half guard. I don't really play much half guard myself. So if you wanted for me to get to my half guard, it's kind of a weird spot to try to get me. It's like getting somebody to play spider guard with you. If I don't want to play spider guard, it's going to be tough. But because what you're doing, you're going from half guard, sweeping right into my half guard, which is going to be terrible, mind you. But that's an interesting funnel to get to where you want to be as far as the progression of your game.
Yeah, I mean, I just know the half guard well, so I know what works to pass, and I know what works to prevent the pass. Framing is everything. Framing, underhooks, all that's very, very important. So the people who aren't comfortable with that half guard, they usually have very weak underhooks, So it's fairly easy to get the underhook, flatten them out, keep them there, and work pass.
Tom, when you started, would you say that the gym aspect or the training room has changed a lot since then?
Oh, yeah, it's a totally different animal. Back then, it was kill or be killed, man. It was only the strong survived back then. Now, it's about building up the weak to make them strong, and jiu-jitsu is a place for everybody. And, that's what people need to remember. It's truly something for everyone, and it wasn't always that way.
So you prefer the way it is now opposed to back then?
I like both, because I am a hard-nosed guy. I am a competitor. I am a gritty guy. I like to train hard, and I still train my ass off. I train harder than anybody in my school, It's just who I am, though. Like, no matter how successful I get, I'm still balls to the wall training with fresh guys for 40 minutes straight. This is no problem for me. I think I like it better for other people. For me, it doesn't matter what you throw me in, I'm fine. But for other people, in order to build and help them, it's essential that they have it this way, because most people wouldn't survive the way it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's totally right. The fact that you were able to go into a gym like that and come out, and enjoy the process is that's a harder person to find than if you have 10 or 12, 20 people walk in the gym and you treat them all like that. You're gonna have less students by the end of the day than if you treat them a little bit, I don't know, nicer is the right word, but you work with them a little bit more, you show them more, and you really help them develop as a martial artist.
100%, man, and it's crucial, you got to make it for everybody.
How much of that is, it's obviously good business sense to really teach people in that way, but just that, or just the right thing to do, and it is for the people who are not naturally athletic. Teach them how to defend themselves is more important than teaching somebody who is a natural athlete to defend himself.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you just kept it that way, I mean, jiu-jitsu truly has something for everybody, and they need to find out what it is. They need to find out how jiu-jitsu can benefit them. And if you keep it where only the strong survive, it's gonna deter so many people. So to organize it in a structured environment to where everybody could benefit, that's truly, I feel that's the real beauty in it, to make it for everybody.
Tom, what do you say to the people that are worried that that's making it too easy for people, and they like it the old way? That's the real jiu-jitsu of.
Tell them to shut up. I tell them obviously our way works, right?
Yeah.
Because we're putting out savages, yet I have 300 something students. So obviously what I'm doing is doing it the right way. If they're too tough to do it this way, they're jerk offs. That's what I have to say. Because honestly, I've never had trained with anybody who, I train with some really tough guys. I consider myself really tough. And I'm just not talking about like winning competition. I'm just talking about people who are willing to put themselves through hell and back. You can't put me in any room to where I'm going to be uncomfortable. Turn up the heat to 150 degrees. Let's train for an hour straight live. I could do that. But at the same time, I want to help people. I want to be there for people. I want to make people better. So for the people who say, you're making it too pussified, this and that. Listen, we're not handing out belts. We're not giving out belts online. We're just we're structuring it in a way to where we're not training like a bunch of animals. We're human beings and we're making it, for everybody. And that's really the difference. And if whoever don't like it, who cares? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. They mean nothing to me.
Yeah. They go to different school and train. I'm really always shocked by, Jiu-Jitsu is great, get kids involved, help build them confidence, they'll get picked on less and be able to stand up to bullies a little better and that sort of thing. And you send them to the wrong Jiu-Jitsu school, and it's like the bully is wearing a belt, like a colored belt, and it's like you just get sent to a meaner bully that's picking on them all the time now. And I think that's going away, but it seems like there was a time when that was a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think so 100%. And I'm glad that it's shifting and, it's becoming better for everybody. I think it's really, really important.
You've talked several times about like a hard training day. Not everybody, you put me in a room that's 150 degrees and I'll go a couple of rounds, I'll start to fade out, and I'm not really conditioned for that sort of environment. But what would you say to people who have a hard training day? You walk into the gym. I've been there a bunch of times. Yeah, I'm going to do great today. I've got this and this I'm going to do. This is working good. And it comes time to roll, and it's like stuff doesn't work for me some days. What would you say to maybe give somebody some encouragement or anything like that?
I'd say it's natural. Don't be so naive and ignorant to think that everything's going to work on your first try. This is jiu-jitsu. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy for anybody. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. And that's fine. That shouldn't discourage people. Like, what in life worthwhile is easy? Tell me. There's nothing in life worthwhile that's easy. You know what I mean? So I think that's what people need to understand. And jiu-jitsu is worthwhile. The shit's not going to be easy, but damn it, it's worth
it. It's not easy, but it sure is fun.
Yeah, man, 100%. It's great.
On the not easy thing, can you think of a time that you thought about quitting jiu-jitsu, and what was the reason for that, if there was one?
Oh, no, I never thought about quitting. I really didn't. I've had plenty of days where I was discouraged. I've had plenty of days where I felt, I felt bad about myself after training, but I never had a day where I felt like quitting because I just love it too much. I have an obsession with it. I committed myself to it, and it's something that I'm in for the long haul, till death do us part. That's how I am with jiu-jitsu. I have a relationship with jiu-jitsu, and I would never turn my back on it.
Okay, so what would be one of the most common reasons you think that a person who comes in, enjoys it, is getting a little bit better at jiu-jitsu, and then they kind of stop coming in? What do you think that's the biggest cause of that?
You want to hear my honest answer?
I would love to hear it. That's what I expect from you, Tom.
I could be brutally honest. I think most people are pussies, man. I think the people who quit, and when I say they're pussies, what I mean by that is if they're not number one, they don't want to do it. The moment things get hard, they don't want to do it. The moment they're uncomfortable, they don't want to do it. That's why most people go through life never accomplishing their best, right? They never become the best they could be because they quit before they reach that. They quit before they reach it. And it's just a damn shame, to be honest. So they need to toughen up mentally. You don't need to toughen up on the mats. I'm not saying you could get tapped 1,000 times. That doesn't make you a pussy. Get tapped 1,000 times. That doesn't make you weak. Get taken down 1,000 times. It doesn't make you weak. Quit because things don't go your way. That makes you weak. That makes you a baby. And good luck finding any greatness in anything else you do in life if that's your mentality.
I'm looking back, we talked about the gym, the old style of training and being real hard on everybody, and then looking at this newer style of trying to help people get better at it and maybe being a little more encouraging and positive of things. How's that go together? Do you think less people quit earlier on?
I think what happens is people hit a sticking point. People hit a sticking point and they just want to improve. They want to improve, and they're not improving the way they want to, and then they get discouraged. But at the same time, many instructors out there are morons. They have to recognize this. They have to understand when people aren't feeling good about themselves, and they need to encourage them. But I could only encourage an adult so much. I can only inspire so much. There comes a time where the adult has to take things into their own hands, right? And that's what it comes down to. So it's a little bit of both. The instructors need to be better. Students need to be more committed to themselves, and that's what it comes down to.
You can only encourage adults so much. What's the difference between coaching and teaching an adult versus a kid?
Kids, you just got to keep it. You just got to keep it fun, man. I mean, I keep it fun for adults too, so there's not much difference, believe it or not, because adults who come to the door are still babies. They're babies in jiu-jitsu. They don't know what they don't know. So they're coming in very, very naive, so you have to treat them and coddle them and encourage them like they were kids, because it's very, very important to build their confidence.
So it's maybe just like the things that are keeping it fun for the kids are probably different than the adults, but that's still a big goal with the class.
Yeah, 100%. To keep them encouraged, keep them happy, keep them moving forward, and keep them learning.
What are some of the traits that you see in a new person, maybe a month or so, that you see them have this particular trait, and you think that they're gonna stick with grappling and they're gonna do well?
Just the ability to be a student, just the ability to learn, the ability to just shut off their ego and learn. I mean, I think that's crucial, and not everybody could do that.
It can, okay, this is kind of like meta, but the ability to learn, can that be learned on the mats as well? Or is that something that somebody just has or doesn't have?
It can be learned on the mats 100%. Like jiu-jitsu is a place where people, step on the mats to become better. And it's funny because I made a meme today. It was a picture of Gary and I, and it said the mats are, what does it say? You could always tell a man's true character by how they react to a tough training session. And, you're revealed on the mats. The question is, are you willing to work on your weaknesses, or are you going to find a way to run away from them? So the people who are willing to go in as a student, being humble, they're the ones who go the furthest,
That makes sense. Being able to be coachable, to get that feedback, even for me, it's difficult to give. Sometimes the feedback is hard for somebody to receive when they still do well, but they're not quite doing it right. Like, well, I got the armbar anyway. Yeah, but your feet were all messed up.
Yes. And the thing is, you got to ask them: is that going to work at the highest level? Is it going to work against people who are better than you? So that's why people need to understand. The opportunity to mess up becomes slimmer and slimmer the longer you train and the higher level people you go against. That's why it's imperative to do things the right way.
Yeah, I had a discussion last week with somebody. As a blue belt, they could throw the legs aside and kind of run around the legs. At purple belt, you're not going to run around their legs anymore. You have to pass their guard with a little bit of a game plan into that.
Yeah, man, and it's the truth. It just you just got to be a student. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I got a couple questions from some listeners from our Facebook group. Frank wants to know, when do you start teaching leg locks? Like, what skill level do you start teaching that at?
I mean, me personally, they're always in our no-gi class. So this is a controversial subject. I have 2-stripe white belts and above in my no-gi class. The thing is, I'll expose them to leg locks, but they're not ripping leg locks on one another, but they're being exposed to the defense. Because here's the thing. What happens when somebody throws a leg lock on you on the street, So I don't want them going for leg locks per se. They need to learn how to pass the guard. They need to know how to reverse. But at the same time, I want them exposed to leg locks. In case anyone tries to throw a leg lock on them, they have a basic idea how to defend it, So basically, we're going over leg locks for, from the beginning.
You don't want them going for the leg lock so much. Is that because it really makes their guard passing weak? Is that they can fall back for leg lock, or is it because it's kind of dangerous?
Yeah, no, leg locks have like kind of an addicting effect, So it's very easy if you find something where you can just submit people really easy without having to do a lot of work with the leg lock. people aren't going to want to pass the guard as much. So there are other fundamentals. If they just try the leg lock over and over, there are other fundamentals are going to suffer. So that's why it's imperative they just don't do solely leg locks. They can be exposed to it, but they have to be doing other things.
That makes a lot of sense. Frank also wants to know, how do you start a class? Do you do like a cardio style warm up, or do you do a little bit of movement on the mat with a partner?
We do we do jumping jacks, squat thrust, squats, all that stuff. It's nothing that's too too elaborate. We just get the blood moving. Get
warmed up. That makes sense. I got another listener question here from Greg. He wants to know what it's like to start your own gym and what pitfalls that somebody should avoid if they're trying to do that.
I mean, unless you truly, truly love jiu-jitsu and you're willing to work your balls off, don't even consider starting your own gym. It's just a really hard thing to do. You have to be somebody where people walk through the door to where they want to be a little bit like you. They want to look a little bit like you. You have to be in shape. You have to live the life. You just can't, sit behind your belt and bark orders. You have to be on the front line. You have to be training hard. You have to be out there doing what you ask your students to do. And I think that's what people need to understand.
I think you can say it with most things that, especially when you're going to strike out on your own, you're obviously going to open your gym as part of a big corporation and you get hired by somebody to run this gym. Most people who open their jiu-jitsu gyms are, entrepreneurs who are trying to do this on their own, and you got to have that passion to do that.
100%, man. It's so imperative. It's so important, and you just have to, like anything, you got to work really hard, man. Anything they're going to be successful in, you have to work really, really hard.
Tom, we've talked a lot about working hard and really pushing ourselves and that sort of thing, and then we also talked about people who aren't able to really do that as much. Jobs and family and other things are obviously important as well. What advice do you have for somebody who could train 2 or 3 times a week and that's all the mat time they could get?
Just have fun with it, train hard, have fun. And I think that's it. I don't think it's too complex, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Even 1 time a week is 52 times at the end of the year. You know what I mean? Be appreciative and thankful for the time you have.
Absolutely. What are some things that you do before you compete, like mentally, to prepare yourself?
Really nothing. I just show up and I just compete. It's not something. It's just jiu-jitsu competition. It's not something that I get too nervous about. I train live every day, so why should I get nervous before I'm going to compete? It's not something that's too new.
That makes sense, especially when you've I think you get that when you compete more, and you've done MMA obviously, and so there's more of a risk to your own body when you do that. So doing jiu-jitsu, I don't think it makes you sweat any. You just go out there and do it and have fun with it there.
100%. 100%. I go out there, I have fun. I want to have fun, but the only difference is when I compete is I try to be perfect. So in training, I don't need to be perfect. Competition, I need to be perfect.
And what does that mean?
Don't make mistakes. Be perfect out there in a competition match.
Does that mean like get to your game as quickly as possible and totally avoid theirs, or does that mean?
No, it just means do not give up anything. In 15 years of competition, I've given up less than 12 points. I've never had my guard pass to side control ever. I'm very, very big at having perfect jiu-jitsu. It's very important. So in training, I'll get my guard pass every day. I don't care. In competition, if you're going to pass my guard, you damn well are going to earn it. When I say pass my guard, I never had to pass to side control. I had my back taken 2 times, but I never was passed to side control.
Wow, that's impressive. And I think that it goes to say that how you're training is you're getting your guard pass in training, you're dealing with that, but you flip that switch when you compete, and you pre-game mentally to have a perfect match, and you do your best to pull that off.
It's just something that I've been doing for so long to where I don't flip any. It's very easy for me to flip the switch per se. It's very easy for me to say, all right, now it's go time. I could be hanging out with my family 1 minute, and then I could be in competition mode the next, and then I could be back in family mode the next. So I've done it for so long. It's very easy for me.
What do you say to the the person who's competing, they're fairly new at it, and they're really in competition mode mentally the entire day until they go compete, and then they finally can get out of that mode. You know what I mean? You go to the tournament and the guy's like pacing, and when you're competing, it's like 4 hours from now. Do you have any advice or tips for that person?
If it works for them, whatever. It doesn't work for me. It's just wasted energy, So I try to stay as calm as possible. Jiu-Jitsu is not something where I feel you need to pump yourself up for. If anything, you need to stay relaxed and calm, and I think that's what people need to understand.
If you could go back when you were, let's say, a blue belt, and give yourself some advice, what would you say to that person?
I'm pretty happy with the way I've done things. I was always a student. I always trained hard, and I always was willing to learn. So I wouldn't have done things too much differently. I got to tell you.
Tom, here's something that I think would be interesting to hear. You as a blue belt versus an average one of your students as a blue belt. How would that match up in today's day and age?
I was a tough blue belt. I was very tough. I was a gritty dude, and in order to beat me, you had to really, really, really bring your A game. So I think I had a lot more heart than a lot of these kids have that I see now. But every once in a while, like some of my blue belts, like definitely like my best blue belts now would have beat the shit out of me when I was a blue belt. I'm pure technique, that's my best blue belts. I mean, they would have whooped me and like tapped me. They wouldn't have outworked me. They would have ended up like catching me, because they're that good. But no one was outworking me, man. Not happening.
How old were you when you started grappling?
I was 19.
There you go. It's working hard, and it's hard to outwork somebody with that sort of drive and energy, especially as a young person.
Oh hell yeah, man!
What 19 is kind of an age where people kind of figure things out for themselves and that sort of thing. What frustrated you at the beginning on the mats?
Nothing. I was just so enamored and obsessed with it. I really wasn't frustrated. I was just, I just wanted to learn. I was frustrated when I would get tapped or I would get whooped. I would get frustrated, right? But overall, I just really, really, really wanted to get better, and I wanted to improve, and I wanted to be just better and better and better, and I wanted to be one of the best in the world then. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to, I wasn't as patient maybe as I should have been mentally, but that didn't discourage me, and I kept showing up, and it didn't, I enjoyed every minute of it. I really loved it.
That's good. Over the past few years, what have you changed about the way that you're training?
I train smarter now. I think I just know my body better. I do more weights. I do more physical conditioning. I'm able to train longer and harder because I know my body better. I know when to expend the energy. I know when not to. I'm a very, very smart grappler. So to make me tired is really, really, really hard to do. And I think that's it, really. A
lot of that obviously is from the training and the off the mat training that you do. Are you taking supplements, or what do you do for your diet? And tell me a little bit about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a company, Meal Plans to Go. They make all my meals for me. So I was, I really started watching when I was eating again, probably like 5 weeks ago. I lost like 14 pounds. I was getting big lifting, and I was up to like 247. Now I'm down to like 232. Because now I'm leaning out, and I'm probably going to compete and fight to win at 221. So I needed to lose that weight. And I also, Q5 has a DeBlass stack to where it's stuff I truly, truly love. It has amino acids, it has a joint supplement, and then it has a pre-workout. And the pre-workout is like a non-stimulant pre-workout. It's really good for endurance. The aminos are great to recover you, and the joint stuff, I need to take joint stuff, else my joints and my, they get very achy and very sore. So I endorse it because I take it. I endorse it because I believe in it, so that's on Q5, and that's what I take. And then I eat Meal Plans to Go.
I think that with those things helping you as well, you mentioned that you're going to be grappling until death do you part. So I think that's also a big important thing for keeping you on the mats long term.
I think so too, man. I totally agree.
All right, Tom, it's been a pleasure talk with you, get to know you a little bit. Do you have any final words or advice for the people listening?
Yeah, just have fun with it, guys. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Enjoy your training. Enjoy your time. Keep showing up. Don't quit. Don't stop. It's all worth it. And enjoy it, man. Enjoy it.
Awesome. I think, having fun with it, you won't quit. It's when you take it and try to make it too much of a big deal, and people hit that peak and then they go away. So have fun with it. I love that. That's great advice, Tom. I really appreciate you being on here today, and thanks for talking with us.
Thank you, brother.
Well, I'd like to thank Tom DeBlass for taking time to come to our podcast and drop some knowledge to our listeners. So we really appreciate it, and we're just so honored to have him on the show.
Yep, it's an honor to have him on. And mentioned before, if you're not friends or you don't like his page on Facebook, go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah.
You're going to get lots more of Tom DeBlass.
He's got a lot of motivational quotes, and the other cool thing is he's always showing some techniques there too. The other day he had a knee bar, so shoot, if I can get some techniques from Tom DeBlass, I call that winning. Yep,
he always has great stuff online. I want to mention next week's show. Next week we have Jonathan Uzgatiki. Our friend Richard Payne went out and visited his gym on his vacation, and he came back and was like, "You got to interview Jonathan." And I said, "Okay, so what's going on?" And he explained this amazing story of how he went to the gym and what it was like, and his teaching style, and being a guest in that environment, and so I was like, "Okay, I got to call Jonathan." So that led to this, and Jonathan's high-level competitor. His wife is a very high-level competitor, and they run a successful gym there. He started training at age 35, so he started a little bit later than most. And he's running his own gym.
Same age I did.
Big Harry, he's got a gym.
Yeah, and he's good.
And he's good. Ouch. Gary is also quite good at jiu-jitsu, but and he does have you kind of have your own gym as well, but it's not run as a business.
No.
So that's next week. I'm pumped. You could tell, I think, by that interview.
And I know you probably don't want to wait till next week to get some more of Byron or Gary. So check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, Pinterest. You name it, we're there. Check us out.
There we are. Hanging out. Check us out.
Ooh, I like that one.
If you want to support us, there's a couple easy ways. One would be by getting our audiobook. I really hope that helps you out. Don't get that just to support us. You can if you want, but really, if you're in your first year, I really hope that helps you out. Another way to support us is to find us on Patreon. There's a link to it in the show notes, a little video of me explaining everything with a link attached to that. The Patreon is a website for content producers like podcasters or artists or anything like that, where you would support us with a per episode basis. So you might pledge $1 per episode. We put out an episode at the end of the month. It's going to charge you 4 episodes likely, because there's usually 4 episodes in a month. And that money goes to us and helps us keep this thing going. There's different levels of support. We appreciate every level. It makes our day when we get a Patreon supporter. And there's different rewards for every level, and they're all on there. Everybody that's supporting us on Patreon gets included in our BJJ private Facebook group. There's no other way to get in there, really. You either are good, close, personal friends with us, or you support us on Patreon.
Personal friends.
Or you support us on Patreon, and we'll include you in that group. And then you get a message like, "Hey, I'm interviewing Tom DeBlass tomorrow. What do you guys want me to ask?" And then we get some of your input on there, and then you get your question asked to Tom or our future guests that we might have. So that's kind of a fun way that we're able to interact with you guys, and you guys are able to actually support us through Patreon there. So really excited about that, and it's going pretty good.
Yep, you actually become kind of like a producer of the show. You can kind of let us, we can kind of use your questions. So it's kind of neat when some question you have is out there and gets answered by our guest.
Yep, and financially also a producer and definitely supportive of that. All right, Gary, with the music rolling in, it is time, my friend, to put you on the spot again and talk about an audiobook that you have no idea that's coming your way. So, Gary, what's up, man? You've yet to produce one of these books.
Really looking forward to this one.
If you're new to the show, I've produced one audiobook in my entire life called Your First Year in BJJ. We've talked about that already. Gary, he says to produce any. I keep throwing these ideas at him and these titles, and he works on them very hard, but doesn't quite actually get them finished. Maybe because the ideas are so bad. But this week, Gary,
I work on them very hard.
That's true. You work on them as you make up stuff to talk about during this segment, and then probably they just kind of sit there.
Yeah. As soon as the show gets over, I forget about it.
Yeah, and then also I'm doing this. I put the title of your audiobook you're working on in the show notes. So if somebody happens to Google search for the title of your book, like last week was Overalls and Underhooks, Hillbilly Grappling. If somebody search for that or search for overalls and hillbillies, it might pop up, and it's kind of funny to see something.
Wouldn't that be crazy
obscure.
If somehow I won an award for most audiobooks produced in a year?
Right now, you're sitting at 0. Most audiobooks thought about produced in a year.
Yeah.
I can bring up one of those awards for you, Gary.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'd like that.
I'll make that happen. It'll be maybe we'll present that in December.
Yeah. But maybe we can videotape it and put it on the YouTube channel.
That's a great idea, Gary. We got to get you on there more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, once.
We got to get you on there more than once, even. We got the good-looking guy of the podcast. He doesn't even make an appearance yet on the YouTube channel. We got to make that change because they're tired of seeing me, Gary.
Well, I'm afraid of live TV.
Oh, well, we have a tape recorder. We can record everything.
Oh, okay.
So it's easy. But, we'll give you your award in December, at the end of the year. But right now, it's August, and it's hot.
It's definitely hot.
Where we are. So your book this week that you're working on is called Hot Mats, Cool Rash Guards, Gary's Guide to Summer Grappling. Gary, I know you've got a ton of great tips for grappling in the summertime. You've got a lot of experience grappling outside in a garage, wherever. In the summertime, we've got 110 degrees here some days, Gary. What's up, man? Give us some tips.
Well, like you said, those mats can get hot, especially if you're training outside. You definitely want to wear a rash guard, which is part of the title there. But basically, this is an audio book of how to get the most out of your summer training because, you can run into all sorts of stuff from scorpion bites. I've seen timber rattlers go right across the mat. You can run into that. Dog bites. If you're training outside, I've seen it happen. You definitely want to make sure you're training. In Chapter 2 talks about, how to avoid dog bites. There's a couple different things. The most normal one is never train in a post office rash guard. So don't wear a rash guard that's USPS because dogs don't like that. Another thing is make sure your rash guard does not have pockets because if you do have pockets, you may leave dog treats in there. I've seen it happen before, and oh boy, it's ugly. I've seen dogs attack for that. So, you want to watch out for the stuff like that. We'd already talked, Chapter 4 is about, other kind of animals such as, we said timber rattlesnakes and scorpions. So you definitely want to take care of those. But, just other things too. Like a lot of times competitions outside will not allow this. But if you're training outside, make sure you use SPS, a lot of it. But a lot of guys don't like training with you at that point because they can't get a grip on you. So it's legal for training, but it's not good in competitions. A lot of times they won't let you wear sunscreen. But I actually have tapped out people who did not wear sunscreen because their back got so burned, and I've tapped them out just, with a burnt back. So it can work to your advantage. So, but it's a very important one. Make sure, every 5 minutes you're taking a water break, especially when it's really hot. That's very, very important. So, but, there's a lot of things. We're going to talk about the recovery position, so when you do pass out, because it's going to happen, when you do pass out, how you should be placed, so you won't choke on your tongue or swallow your vomit, which could get caught in your lungs. So it's a very informative podcast audiobook. You definitely need to check it out. And what was the name of the title again?
Oh, Gary, I hardly remember. Hot Mats and Cool Rash Guards, Gary's Summer Guide to Grappling.
And the cool thing about it, the title is longer than the content.
Well, it sounds like you're all over the place with content, with animals, dogs, passing out. You've got a lot of stuff going on there, Gary.
But I tell you, really, the most important one is, like I said about the dogs, make sure you do not wear a USPS, United States Postal Service rash guard. Dogs do not like that. So if you do that, I think that's the most important tip you can get out of there.
Yeah, and those rash guards are going around with the Tour de France happening. All those guys that wear those post office rash guards are selling them on the jiu-jitsu markets.
A lot of those guys that train for the post office team there, a lot of them do jiu-jitsu on the side. So, those guys better be careful. And I hope they listen to this show.
Yep, it's just it's a great safety warning, Gary. And I just feel bad that it's so late in the summer that this is coming out, and all the grapplers who have been attacked by dogs while grappling. Gary mentioned the sunburn technique. He did that to me. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. We're outside grappling.
The crazy thing
in the front yard.
Yeah, Byron couldn't understand why I held him in his guard. And I held Byron in my guard for over 45 minutes.
I thought it was 2 hours. And finally, Gary whispered. He goes, "You got a sunburn." And I tapped right there, and I was like, "Yeah, he's right. He got well played, Gary." I was getting kind of bored anyway. Definitely time to go home, but I couldn't get out of that. And then he informed me. That's the beauty of that submission is you just whisper into their ear, the damage has already been done. You got to go see a dermatologist now. Get the moles checked out.
You think about what's the largest organ on your body, Byron? What's the largest organ?
I
your
can't
skin.
talk about that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, good one. Your skin. So basically, what I did is I hurt you.
Yeah, I was gonna say my nose.
I damaged you. Yeah. Yep, your dermis.
I was gonna say the olfactory nose right there, Gary. But I don't know what you were thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my dermis, my skin.
Yes.
This is getting weirder every time. But hopefully next week we'll have an episode of Matt Tales or some other sort of shenanigans to pull. If you have a crazy story about grappling or something that happened to you, the side note of grappling, we'd be happy to share that on the podcast with Matt Tales. Check out future episodes or past episodes of Matt Tales and past episodes of the show. You could just if you go to our website and you type in Matt Tales on the search bar, they'll pop up. They're towards the end of the show, like we are now. So speaking of the end of the show, Gary, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So over the past few years, what would you say that you've trained about? Or let me retry that. That you're working on is called Hot Mats, Cool Rash Guards. Getting Gary's summer guide through getting Gary's guide with God dang, Gary, I can't even say it. I'm trying to make it up. Okay, one more time. Let me collect my thoughts real quick. Okay, Gary's guide to summer grappling. Gary, I know you've got a ton of great tips